as a video editor, I can follow along in the script, know if I've missed anything, and I can fill in any gaps very easily because I've got the script in front of me, I've got the raw footage in front of me, I can put together a video. As a performer, I wish I could more succinctly go through, a 5-step process without a script and just record it, because I feel like there would be this authenticity that sometimes my performance lacks when I'm reading a script.
To that concern that you're not going to sound authentic, or that it's going to sound too formal and too stuffy or whatever, a lot of people think when you put something on paper that it has to, sound stuffy or, like professional or whatever. Like, write your script like you would talk your script.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are and wherever you're watching from. My name is Matt Pierce, host of the Visual Lounge, and today we're going to be talking about the age-old debate of should you script or should you not script. Now, the reality is that there's benefits probably for both. However, we at TechSmith have learned some things that we want to share with you from our experiences to help you. And to help me do that today, I've got two awesome guests to return to the show, Andy Owen and Ryan Knott. So, Andy and Ryan, welcome to the Visual Lounge.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, both of you, just real quick, because it's been a while since you've both been on the show. Let's have you guys introduce yourself. Andy, we'll have you go first, and then Ryan will have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Andy. I am a video producer here at TechSmith, and I primarily have been working on the Camtasia YouTube channel as of late, but all sorts of other work as well, elements on the Camtasia pages. So go check that out. You'll see some of the videos I've created, and I do all of it in Camtasia now. So
awesome. All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Knott. I'm a content strategist here at TechSmith. That means I strategize our content, and that includes a lot of times working with Andy on our video content for our YouTube channel and some other things. But yeah, all kinds of content: our blog, website content, landing page content, social content, lots of content.
All the content it goes through Camtasia stuff goes through Ryan's hands, and Andy, of course, you guys might recognize from the Camtasia channel. So real quick, let's put in context your roles, in particular when it comes to making videos. Andy, you're a video producer, so that implies some things. But what else do you do for the videos?
Are you talking about the fact that I'm in the videos?
You're in the videos, yeah.
Yeah. So, and some of you might remember the global pandemic we had a few years ago. During that time, we couldn't be in a shared space together. So after, a year or so of having been making YouTube content behind the camera, the only way we're going to be able to keep making content is if I stepped in front of the camera and ran the teleprompter and ran the audio and ran the camera and ran on and on. And so that's kind of how that started. And, I've enjoyed doing it, and so far so good. So yeah, I'm on camera during the YouTube videos for Camtasia. However, I'm not a writer, and so thank goodness I have Ryan by my side to help me sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Right. And of course, Ryan, you mentioned all the content you're doing. I'm assuming you're mostly writing scripts and things like that for Andy to go through and read.
Yeah, I write scripts. Andy and I work together to sort of conceptualize or figure out what videos we need to make. That includes like going through blog content that we have and saying, hey, that'd be a great video, or we need a video for this particular blog. Scripting and just helping to decide what videos we actually need.
So if we would have talked a year ago or even longer, and Ryan, you've been on the show to talk about using scripts, what has changed from the position that we were in a year, 2 years ago? Kind of, we've been big advocates of using scripts, but why are we having this debate now? What's maybe happened?
So I don't know who should go first, but I'll start with my personal opinions because I'm the one who's on camera and then also ends up editing myself in post-production. And I just started truly feeling like the videos were less engaging than they could be because I was reading the words, right? And so it sounded to me at least like I was reading. I heard the script coming out of my mouth rather than, I know this topic. Like I know how to edit videos. I can speak about this with some authenticity. Why don't I just go off the cuff? Because a lot of how we were doing the videos wasn't just that we were scripting them. Even the demo was scripted, right? So if I show off something, we'd script it beforehand, and then I would go in and actually create the content to the narrative or to the narration. And so now what we said was like, this doesn't feel, or what I said at least was, this doesn't feel authentic. I would really like to try going off the cuff. And it was nothing about Ryan's words. They were great. The scripts were great. I didn't feel like I could perform them authentically, that it felt like it was coming from me, or that I wasn't just reading, a script. And so I decided, let's try something different. Let's mix it up a little bit. And that's what we did. That's why we're here. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and Ryan, one of the things I think we should point out is your role. You actually have a role in the studio. Beyond writing the content, you play a role. And tell us a little bit about what that is and why. I think it's important for context of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. So on days when we're shooting, I actually go in the studio and I sort of act as the on-site, hey, that doesn't sound as good in person as it did on paper kind of thing. And so, making sure that the words that are coming out of Andy's mouth actually, sound natural and sound like something a person would say, and actually are clear and say the thing we want them to say. And no matter how many times you go, you write a script or whatever, like sometimes when you get on site, it's like, yeah, that didn't come across as we thought it was going to. So yeah, I'm sort of like an editor on the fly sometimes in terms of like, hey, what if we said it this way instead?
Yeah.
100% he is. And honest to goodness, that's one of those things. Originally, it was like, well, listen, if we get in the studio and it doesn't sound right, we should probably have a writer in there with us who can help us adjust on the fly. And that's kind of where this all stemmed from. And that was even before I was on camera. That was when we had, the Snagit videos and Aaron was on camera. We'd have to change something in the middle of it. And if it was just a couple of video producers and the host, it was like, well, what should we say? So thank goodness now we have Ryan sitting in there and we can adjust on the fly. So he's kind of our script supervisor / continuity expert / does that sound like a human expert?
I like that. Sound like a human expert, Ryan. You're good at that too. Identifying all those robots and real life captcha.
I for one welcome our new robot overlords, but.
Okay, so we've set up, I think, kind of the roles and the things that have happened. And Andy, you mentioned this desire to maybe be more natural, and I think there is this natural evolution that happens, right? Like especially if you're not as familiar with topics, scripts are obviously really helpful. But you are an expert, Andy, and so tell us about the transition. How did it go? If we're saying script versus no scripts, are we now like, yeah, team no script, let's do this?
Yes. No. So I think I like you guys. With the second I'm on camera fully, I know these two are laughing at me. But basically, what's going on is we started doing these. I want to say when Camtasia Rev was released. So back in about October, we released a new version of Camtasia, and with that, I really wanted to go through the process of how you create these videos as authentically as possible. And I thought this is a great opportunity for me to try the no script version. We went to Vid Summit and showed it to a lot of people. I feel like I've demoed it over and over. I have to be able to do this off the cuff, right? I don't know about you guys. Does anyone ever get really nervous when you get a camera in front of you and suddenly you don't know what to say, or don't know the thing you've been studying for 20 years just flies out of your head and you can't talk because there's a camera? And that's kind of what would happen is I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I feel like we did come with an outline that first time, or did we not even have an outline that first time?
I think we had an outline, but it was real basic. Like,
yes,
sort of like, this is what we want to talk about, not even really like sub bullet points about like, what does that look like? Like, it was really just talk about this thing.
And the trouble that runs you into is if I talk about this thing, but say it differently in take 2 or take 3 or take 4, we don't know which take I'm going to keep in the edit. And did I end saying the word Camtasia, or did I end saying the word Rev, or did I end saying the word that's how you do it, and then start the next sentence with the exact same phrase? Because now I don't know what the next thing we're moving on to is going to start with. And so we started running into this continuity problem real fast when I got to the edit, realizing, oh, I actually liked that third take better, but I ended by saying in Camtasia Rev. And then on the next line, I say Camtasia Rev can do. And so like I started repeating myself real fast when I put the edit together, and it sounded horrible. And so we very quickly ran into this just continuity mess.
I think the other thing too is that a script tells you what to say, but it also keeps you from saying the things you don't want to say or that aren't relevant or whatever. So, a script is a guardrail to keep you on track. And so when you don't have a script, there's this tendency to want to ramble or over explain or go down rabbit holes and things like that. And we definitely ran into that as well.
You just described me on half of the shows that I've ever recorded. Seriously though, but I love that. So Ryan, it seems like on your side, if you're acting as this continuity kind of tracker editor, your job just got a lot harder. Andy, it sounds like from your perspective, while maybe more natural, your job also got harder because you're trying to remember the last things that you said, the way you said it, the intonation. Did you end on an up or did you end on a down? Or, and trying to fit that together. So it sounds like there's a lot of challenges. However, let me ask this because my guess is that this isn't an all or nothing. It never is, right? It's always do a script, never do a script. But if you were to give advice to someone who's like, yeah, I really still don't want to do a script, how would you fix those problems? Or would you say, what advice would you give in terms of what's the trade-off of dealing with those problems? Because it seems like there's just trade-offs here.
The first thing I would say is, personally, I think scripting is still the best way to go. And unless there's an absolute reason, some sort of, if you've got to get this done right now, you don't have time to write a script. At least detailed bullet points. And I think the other thing, and this was something, Andy, we haven't even talked about this offline yet, but I think the other thing too, one of the things that can sort of mitigate that idea of not sounding natural or whatever is doing some table reads or some sort of dress rehearsals, like running through the script, making sure what's coming next, understand, not just the sentence you're saying, but what's coming next and maybe even coming later in the paragraph, so that it isn't the first time you're reading it when you get on camera.
Yeah. Yeah. And we used to do that when we would have scripts. We would do the table reads, but once we went off script, it was like, well, I'll just see it in the studio. It'll be great. And the other problem, and this is something that I don't know if everyone would run into, but what we run into is when we're demoing Camtasia, for example, what am I demoing? What video content are we recording? That's something people don't have to think about that often, but I need some kind of on-screen content that doesn't distract the viewer, but also shows off what the software is capable of. So for example, am I recording a screen recording of a web page being scrolled through, or am I recording a YouTube video that I'm reacting to, or what is the on-screen content? And the reason I bring this up is because if we'd written a script, we'd know the demo content we're talking about. We'd know what we want to, how we want to start, how we want to get through halfway, how we want to end. And that would affect the demo content we're using. But we got in the studio and twice recently had no idea what we were showing off. And so even though we knew the feature in Camtasia we wanted to show off, we didn't have an idea for what on-screen content we should be doing. Because it's just a very meta thought to be like, I'm showing Camtasia, but what's Camtasia showing? So it gets a little messy. And the script just keeps us so in place. Someone used, Ryan, was it you that used the example? Someone did, of having bumpers when you go bowling, having, instead of gutter balls, you've got the bumpers. You're not throwing the best game ever necessarily, but at least, and with a script or with even an outline, you've got these guardrails in place. And so Matt, you asked, kind of what we might do in the future. And there hasn't been a next step, by the way. The last one we recorded was more off the cuff, and we just said, okay, we're going back to scripts. But I think what that'll mean for us is we'll script it all, and I will try, while recording the demo portion, because we've also started doing that live in the studio, we'll try to do that a little more authentically. It's okay if I, kind of look at the camera and go, well, this is how I would do it, instead of just reading every line verbatim. So I think there's definitely going to be some play and some kind of give and take, right? So the intro is definitely going to be recorded off of a script. The outro is definitely going to be recorded off a script. Half that stuff's memorized anyway, because I know I'm going to say, make sure to subscribe to our channel and, for more great content. But as for the intro and outro of the video, as for the middle part of the video, man, I need those guidelines. I need that kind of this is what we're talking about. This is the best way to say it. Do we want to try variations? Totally. But, you watch comedy movies and they're like, oh, we're going to try some different variations. We're going to ad lib this section. These guys are improv specialists. I am a video editor. I'm not an improv specialist. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm just trying to kind of talk you naturally through my process. And sometimes I can't even do that. I just get so sidetracked on, a small detail on screen.
Well, and that ends up being one of the trade-offs that we noticed pretty readily, was the amount of time that we spend on set and in the studio was increased by just so much, because it was, as Andy pointed out earlier, having to redo the same thing over and over and over, and then being like, what did I say that last time? Or, Andy saying to me, what was that you told me to say? Instead of having that on a script and being able to just go back and say, okay, let's start at, whatever word, and everybody knows what that is. Yeah, we found that we were doing way more takes, which takes more time in the studio, and then I'm sure takes Andy way more time to edit.
Well, and you brought that up. That even made me think we had the issue of forgetting a step completely and having to go back and re-record the line. So I was telling people, if you're familiar with the Camtasia recorder, there's 4 windows. And so I said, make sure to turn on your camera, turn on your microphone, turn on your screen recording, turn on your system audio. And we moved on. But this video was about Camtasia Rev, which, by the way, is a toggle switch on the Camtasia recorder. And I just moved on without telling anybody to turn that on. And so it was like, wait, I have to go back and add that in. So now, however I ended the bit about the recorder and however I started the next bit was going to have a fill-in piece, and I didn't remember what I'd said. There was no script telling me what I'd said, and I wasn't going to stop recording and go back and listen to it. Maybe I should have stopped recording and go back and listen to it. Anyway, the point is, we had to put this filler piece in, and by the way, it did not fit. I definitely repeated myself when I got into the edit. So that's just without knowing what the script says, because I'm making it up as I go. You just run into so many problems when you get to the edit.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about is you guys have been sharing, and I love what these lessons, right? I think these are I have felt the pain here many times in different things I've done. But I wonder how much of this is because it's technical in nature what you're doing, that adds maybe a level of complexity, because by technical nature, like showing someone how to do something in Camtasia, there's more than one way, but it's kind of this path you have to go down, and that path has to be right. Versus like this as a conversation, we can have a conversation, there can be give and take, because there is not a singular path that we have to go down. There's things that we probably want to talk about. There's things that, I've got on my list of things that I'd like to talk about. But ultimately, we can go around to kind of different things and we're not doing multiple takes, it's like, it's okay. Versus like, you missed the rev slider toggle, right?
Yeah.
You can't miss that. That was a pretty key point.
And also, like, a situation like this where it's just, the three of us sort of chatting and going through, sort of anecdotally, or, just, having a chat is way different than a Camtasia, not tutorial video, but, sort of how-to video or highlight video that, we want it to be concise, and we don't want people to be sitting there, watching the video going, okay, yeah, get to the point. We want those things to be, as we say, in at TechSmith, your video should be the size it needs to be, the length it needs to be, and so we want those videos to be right sized.
And thank goodness that Ryan is in the studio, because I don't know how many takes I have when I was editing the most recent video that just went live, where I would go on and go on and go on, and when I stopped, Ryan goes, and you hear this off mic, I don't think we need all that. It's like, oh, yeah, I may have gone way down a rabbit hole trying to explain myself. So that's the other reason people are there to be a check. Because you know what? If I was recording these by myself in a bubble, I'd just go. I would just record, and I would go down the rabbit hole. And you know what? Maybe that'd be fine, and I'd release it. But like you said, Matt, like, we're doing process videos. We're trying to teach someone how to use this software, how to, follow through on this idea. But if I go way off topic, people don't know I'm going off topic. They think they're following someone who's got them, on a path. It's the blind leading the blind out here. I'm doing my best, folks. I didn't have a script.
Well, Andy, I'm wondering, because Ryan, you mentioned kind of the extra time there that takes. Andy, from an editing side, how much time did it add? Like you added all that time in studio. How much time do you think it added in the edit?
I don't know that it added a ton of time. It did add time, for sure. But the thing is, the way we record, if I'm quiet for too long on set, as an editor, I know just to scroll past the lower waveform where I'm not speaking into the microphone, right? So there are cues for me to kind of get through it. The problems were introduced with, like I said, continuity, when I would try and say words that I thought I hadn't said before, but I was saying, with Camtasia Rev. In Camtasia Rev, you can do this. Camtasia Rev it's like, oh my God, okay, we get it. 3 times is too many times. And so I'd have to find the most natural of those 3 that I could cut without sounding like I'd cut myself off from what I was saying, or I put B-roll footage on top of it so you didn't hear that there was a cut. It didn't add a ton more time, but it was definitely in studio. It was harder. In the edit, it was longer. Even if by 30 minutes it was longer. And I don't think it was worth the time we may have saved by not scripting. And in fact, not even accounting for our time, how about the viewer's time? Is it more worthwhile if I end up going down rabbit holes, if the video has a lesser quality because I didn't follow through on the thoughts that I'd started with? So I think the scripting, not just from time invested on our end, is more worthwhile, but the viewer's time is worthwhile too. And so I don't want to waste their time with a video that makes slightly less sense even than it would have if we'd gone through and written the script in advance and vetted it and did a table read and then gone in the studio and recorded it.
Nice. So, okay, we're getting close on time, and I want to be respectful of our listeners' time.
We
as
should have
well,
scripted this.
I know,
right?
I want to ask you guys. We put this frame this a little bit as a debate. It's not really too much of a debate, but I'm curious. Like, perfect world, what would be ideal for you to do? And then what advice would you give to our listeners about actually going down that path? So, for instance, let's say I said, I think unscripted is ideal because I like talking. I like all these reasons why I might think that's a good idea. And one way to get better at that would be to do X, Y, Z. So I'm curious if you get to pick a side, and maybe there is no side, and that's a reality, but I'm going to make you choose unscripted, scripted, and give us a piece of advice why you went, or not even why, but how I could be better at that. So, Andy, you look like you're ready.
Yeah, I think that I have two different answers, because as a video editor, I can follow along in the script, know if I've missed anything, and I can fill in any gaps very easily because I've got the script in front of me, I've got the raw footage in front of me, I can put together a video. As a performer, I wish I could more succinctly go through, a 5-step process without a script and just record it, because I feel like there would be this authenticity that sometimes my performance lacks when I'm reading a script. However, for me, the trade-off has not been worth it. I need to be scripted so that I can very succinctly hit the points I need to. Because even if I'm the video editor, Ryan's the writer, and he can make it a lot more succinct for me to get through a video editing process in the right amount of time. So I would say I'm going to stick to being scripted from now on.
So what's your one piece of advice for people who are going to go the scripted route? What would you tell them to make that good?
Oh, if you're going to go the scripted route, my favorite piece of advice for writing scripts is to start the script with a phrase like, hey, Mom, hey, Matt, hey, Ryan. Like, start it addressing someone personally, one person personally, because that will keep you from saying things like, our systems analyst has found that 13 points are, I don't know, like whatever it is. You're not going to sound like a business person if you start a conversation saying, hey, Mom, because you're not going to bring in jargon to a conversation with a parent. You're not going to bring in jargon to a conversation with a friend who doesn't work with you. So I think it's important to give that personal touch. And we do this in the studio too. Even when we're not scripting, there were times where I'd go down a rabbit hole. It's like, okay, how about, hey, Mom, here's what I want to say. And so you can simplify your language a lot better that way.
Awesome. All right, Ryan, what about you? Which side of this debate are you on?
I'm going to say scripted as well for videos that need to have a little bit more professionalism or formality. And for a lot of the reasons Andy just pointed out, I would also say, to that concern that you're not going to sound authentic or that it's going to sound too formal and too stuffy or whatever, I love Andy's advice about the, hey, Mom, I think too, you don't have to, I think a lot of people think when you put something on paper that it has to, sound, I don't know, like stuffy or, like professional or whatever. Like, write your script like you would talk your script, and I think you'll be happy with the results. And also, yeah, give it a run through once or twice, especially if you're only doing a 3-minute video. 3-minute, taking 6-9 minutes to like read through it a few times, get familiar with the language and how those things, how the words feel coming out of your mouth versus how they look on paper. And then the other thing I would just say quickly is, if you're doing a YouTube short or a TikTok or, an Instagram reel or whatever, you don't necessarily need to script those. But, if it's going to be a YouTube video for your YouTube channel and you want to show somebody how to do something, script it.
Yeah.
I know I already had my chance to say my thing, but I just want to piggyback on top of Ryan because that's not physical. I won't piggyback you, but honestly, what he said is exactly right. We can script until we're blue in the face. You've got to read your script out loud before you go into the studio, because what you write, typing onto a Word doc or into a Google Doc doesn't always sound like what you say when you speak it out loud. So read the script you've just written out loud before you ever hit record.
Yeah, those word choices make a big difference. And if it can your mouth form around them? Can you say that? Does it feel right? I often find myself in a situation with scripts where I'm like, how would anybody put those two words together? Like you just can't say it. So I love this. I love this advice, and I appreciate the approach. And Ryan, what you said about look, there's lots of forms of videos. If you're doing the short form, TikTok, things like that, maybe you don't go to this kind of end. But I do think there's a lot of value here. So I appreciate the advice and the wisdom that you've both shared and sharing your experiences. We'll put the link to the video that you talked about, Andy, so people can see, and they can maybe they got some advice for us. Maybe they liked it, maybe they don't like it.
See if they can see if I missed any of those edits, and they can spot anything where they're like, oh, he said that twice.
They should do a reaction video.
Oh, wait till you see what video we're linking to. Well said, Ryan.
All right, Ryan and Andy, before we wrap up, any last advice, words of wisdom, or things that you would want to share with us before we close?
No.
Ooh, that's you gotta love it.
Perfect.
Yeah, just keep making videos, man. Just do the thing. That's make videos.
Yeah, I think if scripting is going to stop you from making the video, then don't script it. If not scripting the video freaks you out and you need to script, then script it. Don't follow any of this as this is how it has to be done. We're just telling you our story. This is what happened for us. Is we scripted it for a long time. I decided, we can do this without a script, and it turns out, no, we can't. Some people can.
It was a little bit of hubris. It was a little bit of hubris on both of our parts.
You're right. 100%. We're like, we got this. This has been a long time coming. Let's go.
Professionals.
We spent so long in that studio. It got real hot too.
Well, I'll just say I think there are different skill sets to this. It's two different skill sets. One to be able to read and be on camera. Another one to be able to keep all that track. I mean, Andy, because you were there, and when I've done different scripts and how long it took me, how many takes reading through things, and then the one time it worked out is when the 9 tips for screen recording. And that was off the cuff, but it was also after 30 scripts plus 30 videos being made. All that was in my head at the time. So the only time
Matt,
it worked.
I'm afraid people are going to think you're exaggerating. There was 30 scripts. There was 30 scripts that Matt had to read. And getting through them was a bear. It was 2 days at least. They were all short, but it was 2 days.
Two days straight, just boom.
While we still had the stuff set up, Barrett, who was also there at the time, was recording, was like, let's do this off the cuff one now. Or you said, let's do the off the cuff. And it just was one take. So yeah, you've got the gift. I don't have it. And I want to point out too, don't forget, if you're teaching somebody something learning and design, that's probably something that you want to make sure you don't forget something. Script it. If you're really that good at doing it, awesome. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like you don't want to forget things when you're teaching.
Well, and you're too kind. I mean, it was one moment and one time that I think it worked out okay. Because how many times do I record stuff just here in my office, and I'm like, no one's ever going to see that because that was terrible. I guess I should do an outline now and write a script and figure that out. So, well, thank you again, once again, for being on the show. We got, if you guys want to go see their work, go check out YouTube on the Camtasia channel, and we appreciate you both being here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. All right, everybody. We always love it when you like and subscribe on the channel, or if you're on the podcast, make sure you're hitting that follow so you get your downloads, whether you're on Apple or Spotify or you're just listening through the browser. We always appreciate you. And what we hope that this inspires you to try some things out. Write a script. Don't write a script. Try it out. See what works for you. But I think, as Ryan said, get out there and make some videos and learn the thing that's going to work best for you. Take this advice, apply it, and try it out, and you can get rid of stuff that doesn't. So with that said, again, as always, we hope that you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.